In the Darkness I See by Anon Y. Chapter 4 Meditations on Art. Part 2. Again with the wrong level of abstraction, cried Tommy with an entirety of something all around him. Why, I scream, stop telling me why it's better to live as if God exists. That stupid metaphysical good gamble from Pascal, like the self-service of not only betting for, but the actual hope in the first place of eternal bliss for your little self, isn't the most transparent thing in the world. Rather than all this lowering of so-called Lord into a timeshare explanation that basically lays out the operations of anyone with a complex enough mind to say, I don't know, plan for winter, why don't we actually be honest and get to the point? Why is there actually more than me? More than the gods we are creating ourselves to be? But, I murmured just enough to interrupt him, Log into anything, continued Tommy, not quite rage, but some semblant sibling of it rising, and see just how everything we are. You are still going to give me a non-more-than-me pseudo-metaphysical argument, I can tell. You're just telling me how to satiate my IQ and calling it a why. There is no sales pitch to maximize my life that doesn't just promise, at best, to turn it into gruel premium. Please, give me one that explains to me my gut as it churns with importance. Frankel says your eyes owe that meaning in the meaning, except for the meaning outside of self, extinguishable for the finding of meaning. Maybe you throw Dostoevsky at me and explain how he was just like me and you and me and all of us struggling to see, and his answer brilliantly was a characterological analysis of piety versus iniquity made manifest. Another series of mammalian mirror learnings, base level complexities. And we'll have our laughs and cries, and I'll share my problems and we'll solve them amicably, and another human will have answered by action instead of answering by answering. Meaning, this New Age stuff seems simply to be an IQ proportional monkey manipulation to ease us into I'm not sure what. You all espouse these so-called greats, but their answers amount not to an actual why. Not like it was, with a God telling me that I am co-creating my slice of meaning for something other than a means to an end of my not having a meaning. A dead end with floral notes and grandiloquent distractions. It has to be an existential ordering that makes it all for something, that in truth we are not just working for the perpetuality of man at best. I know you see, I know you see. Your brow all stuck and twisted into a shadow frown. I know you feel the wet spaghetti beneath your bridges. And stop yourself, please, before telling me that I can't fight the feeling of everything in me, for I wish to know what is driving the feeling, not that I have it, that the driver is realer than my wanting it to be. A cat is no more or less special because he is driven to a heated cat's end. And don't come with Nietzsche either, for he is obviously a solution of suicide from inept. Little shit, using his fraction of something moreness to counter something more than his. Don't tell me why it's good. Tell me why good is good. Why we are all actually meaningful. Why not just blow my head into the starry night of your ceiling here? There is not some sales pitch you can shoot at me, for like the rest of us disordered men and women, with our BPD, NPD, AVPD, and all that good, we have lived in the light of just what animals we are, stuck separate and thought stupidly alone. We need the truth that we are more than individuals, for our lives and the proxy truths of love or more than self-service were missed and continue to be missed by us. Disorders. Ha! All these labels you have swirling and spiraling above head mine. They aren't disorders, any more than they are cluster understandings for you to use to help me to dull the truth in every moment, in our every moments, and try and have us prove to ourselves that there is more. No, just no, I need more than me. My people, us, our people, this post-religious period. Oh, please let it be rather a gap period between becomings of God. We must... This flower is burnt, whisper grievous dropped Tommy. And maybe we solve my AVPD and kumbaya we sing. I know my own problems cause me to use this world's evil as camouflage for hating my own life, my searing reflection of refusal to do what must be done, my fear. But now I have opened this hole, and I... No. That's not what we're doing here. Just getting over my sniveling little problems and trauma that got me here. No, we're going to solve the gap for all of us. Try. We have to try. And also, don't tell me that Camus' character, with correct motivational understanding or metaphysically enforced sociopathic boundaries, with a better upbringing, couldn't act in a novel with as much piety as that holy one in The Brothers Karamazov, or Karamazov, or whatever. You know. Wrath after death is as shallow a motivation as a scary brother-in-law stopping me from beating my wife. That doesn't make me good, it makes me scared. Don't be afraid, says much many full times as morsels days in a year that famous B book. Motivation is called bad if it is for the self, except when I'm trying to get off to heaven. Come on now. Nietzsche. Ha! That flower that looked best at a tree but called it a plant. He's writing on bark but is so vehemently a flower that he thinks it a piece of stem. Such a partial work. The solution to my problem abstracted just might allow us to solve the missing translation of this time. I guess screw you if you think I'm gloating solely for said purpose, but if one is smart, then talk is boring. Proportionally so, because one with the ability to abstract out has little interest in intermediary talking, obfuscating, or tunneling for rabbits. Those damn vermin. Vermin. What an ass I'm stomping as. But you get my point. You wouldn't talk addition to bore, so don't talk disorders to me. So, what are we getting at? If a person doesn't see in their childhood what all the works in the world attempt to translate, then monkey man he becomes just to try and survive and fill the void. What a limiting word, void. No, it's more like the feeling of emphasis on actual humanity, with clear eyes unfiltered by happenings. The feeling that we are so much more than separate beings of flesh and falsity, that we are one being, trapped as these people so alone, and simultaneously knowing by evil acts endured just how huge the human spaces between us are. So, I really need this pressure vessel, called me, to actually mean more than something makeable by me. We do, as our ancestors felt, fuller with less knowing. You want to know what a disorder is? One of your classifications? It's the coping mechanism formed to survive this form without hope. That hope that we are more than just surviving as smart monkeys. They are the temperamentally adjusted attempts to maximize a life not worth living. So, I guess there is a little proof that we are more than multiple me's, that when living as any form of most ultimately monkey man unreally separate, it is simply a partial being that doesn't function in the society, said society as a mega proxy for humanity action and becoming as a whole. And, too, doesn't work to actualize worthiness outside of simulacrums, compulsive behavior addictions, or just raw addictions. Life of actual separation, as faux proven by abuse, only, and I mean only, insists that all we should embark upon are the dark tetrad chimpanzee plus actions, and that disorders to cope or make human life worth living, substances or people or manipulations or seclusions or rapes or murders or anything refined revenge at a time, are inevitably the only actions we have in truth that can at least let us forget this something in my throat right now that knows that it's all not fully true as I know it. How I am viewed separately is all I have. all that I am, as long as I am not actually more important than a me. Don't you understand that it's all I have if not God? Blood, sun, rising. Blood, sun, collapsing. Noticing the inefficacious impact that the note had on Tommy's demeanor, I ambled on extemporaneously. Evolutionarily, I continued, our temporal existence, finite resources, and the biological functioning that is necessitated by them ensures that the biological system most inclined and motivated by the process of acquisition is the fittest. Thus, we have evolved to be more purpose-driven than stimulation-driven. Most of the time spent in our lives is between accomplishments. Revel in the journey. Don't stagnate in comparative attainment of stimuli. Tommy huffed and stared at me, rapidly remarking, "All of your explanatory science works if the mind you are explaining to is not wrestling with the subtle underpinning of being itself, as self. If you know that the edifice you are so enduringly constructing between stimuli is a means to an end, and that the transient joys are unable to satiate the bare minimum desires in most men, how can we call this life commensurate with a life worth living?" "We are not completely out of concordance," I responded. "We deviate solely in where we are attributing importance. You wish to seek something deeper than an arbitrary self-built structure. You claim only this will heal your soul. This salvation for deep meaning speaks more to your insecurity and lack of self-worth than to the universal emptiness that you've plainly observed." "I've already said that," he responded. In kind, I retorted, "You see, if you viewed yourself as inherently significant, say by accepting your inherent divinity, then your self-defined and ultimate meaning would become the paramount principle upon which you would build your life. It is not from the lack of depth within the objective landscape of life that your pain has bloomed, but rather from your place within the truthful arena of biology. Do as you wish to be." Silence lay over Tommy for a moment as he postulated his position internally. Nothing but haphazard quarter phrases were mumbled. "Isn't it true that—" he rambled. At a loss for words, he quickly pivoted. Before shifting topics, though, he said faintly, "Okay, for now I will concede and think." The next topic was the subjectivity of perception. He asked, "Is objective truth the collective subjective, or is it a universal constant?" "Does another sense exist if you cannot sense it?" I simply replied. "The ability, or lack thereof, to sense the environment attenuates full reality. For instance, infrared light is the only palpable truth for some snakes, but the full spectrum of wavelengths exists regardless. By extension, perhaps non-dimensionally or non-temporally constrained beings view us as we view a snake. This can be examined in a more pragmatic capacity by understanding that the universe may not be controlled by our perception of it. Rather, our interaction with the universe is funneled through our mammalian capacities to allow for a tangible piece of totality to unfold. The presumed unconscious energies that fill the rest of space and time and more are not restricted or superintended by such things, right? So, the universality of being is a priori true, even though the perception of the universe's consistency may be inconsistent. Hence, when referring to human knowledge, the best definition of objective truth may be the collective subjective. Hence, a more virtuous objective truth is defined against thoroughly agreed upon subjective truths. Empiricism becomes paramount here." "Well, what a lovely non-answer," he sharply retorted. "I suppose use obviousness instead of contrarianism, then, and answer it for yourself," I razor replied. I soon after wrapped up the session. When I returned to my lonesome obsessiveness, approximating scrupulosity, I questioned myself to reach the truth of our interaction. I wondered if I had answered Tommy's probes. I pondered which caveat I had missed. I couldn't believe the energy I was exerting in the pursuit of the boy's acceptance of truth. At that moment, I realized what truth had meant to him. He wanted no part of universality being funneled through him. He searched for the escape from his biological limitations. Smirking at my glorious victory, I thought to myself, that's why he didn't like my subjective confinement. This has been Chapter 4, Part 2 of In the Darkness I See by Anon Y.